Hello and welcome to this free video workshop where I will demonstrate to you how you can knit a children's cardigan for children between the 39 and 45 inches with your circular knitting machine with 32 needles. When you want to knit a bigger size cardigan or a baby size cardigan, see the description of this video because I have another video to make adult sizes and baby sizes. But this video is specific for the mushroom and a children's size. What do we need besides your circular knitting machine with 32 needles? You need working yarn in the colors you want. This pattern is in 2 colors. You need 2 colors of scrap yarn. You need a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and you need a crochet hook. And depending on where you live, you need a 5 size when you live in the United Kingdom. When you use US sizes, you need a I or 9 size. And when you're in Europe, like I do, I need a 5.5 millimeter size. So this is basically what you need to knit this cardigan. This video is made in chapters, so when there is a chapter you already know with instruction, you can simply skip it. Also a tip, watch the description of this video because there are links to my other videos. Enjoy and have fun. Before you know it, it's finished. These are the tubes that I have been knitting for this project. The tubes have been knitted with the use of scrap yarn at the start and at the beginning, following the 1 second remove scrapyard method, and also close them that way, as demonstrated in one of the next chapters. I'm going to explain to you the pattern. When you have knitted and closed the tubes, you are going to remove the scrap yarn. And finish off the end by just simply stick your hook between the 2 layers somewhere. Find the corner stitch and pull the end to the inside and the outside. And you can just simply cut it off. And do this with all the tubes after you have knitted them, and then they are ready for assembling. So let's show you the pattern. For this project I have been knitting the tubes as you saw at the beginning. You can make a short version by knitting 1 tube less. And I have been knitting in square blocks, and to get a square block with the mushroom machine, you have to knit 24 rows. The pattern contains 1 long tube, that is the back and the back of the sleeves, 2 short tubes, ignore this number, 2 short tubes, those are the tubes that will be the front of the sleeves, and 2 or 3 tubes for the length, and they will be the front panel also. So when you want to knit a shorter cardigan, you just leave out the last tube here, and you need to knit a collar. But first I will explain this. You need to knit 2 short tubes containing 4 times 24 rows. I have knitted it with 2 colors, so I am making 1 color, the other color, 1 color, the other color, with the use of scrap yarn, of course. So 2 the same, then 1 long tube Therefore I'm following the same color choice as this one for the first 3 blocks, and then for the middle part, that's basically 3 blocks, I'm using this color and knit 72 rows. So 24, 24, 24, 72, 24, 24, 24. When you join them, as I will demonstrate later, these two will be a bolero, a short, very short cardigan, just a shoulder or neck warmer thing like. So you can stop whenever you like. And then you are going to knit tubes that are 120 rows in the colors of the blocks. So when you fold it, this is going to be a different color than this one. This is a different color, and so on. You can play with it. For a short cardigan, you knit 2 of them. For a long one, you knit 3 of them. And then for the collar, I will keep it short. For the collar, you knit for the short cardigan with just 2 parts for the length. You knit 1 tube with the use of scrap yarn and close them the same way you did with all those tubes. It has to be 168 rows. When you make the cardigan like I did, you have to knit 260 rows with the use of scrap yarn and also close them the same way. So in total you have to knit 6 for a short one and 7 tubes for a long cardigan. And when you have knitted them, finished them off, like I demonstrate in the next chapter, we are ready to assemble them, and before you know it, it's finished. So enjoy knitting and let's continue. You have to knit these tubes with the use of scrap yarn. I'm going to demonstrate to you how you can add the scrap yarn and how you can remove it very quick. First I'm going to start to knit with my scrap yarn a couple of rows. And then I'm going to change to another color of scrap yarn. I'm just cutting my yarn, putting it to the inside between the last and the first needle. And then I take another piece of scrap yarn and put it into my feeder, also between the last and the first needle. Make sure that the tails are long enough to reach the table. And knit 1 round, so every single needle has to pick the color once. I'm cutting my yarn and putting my tail between the last and the first needle, as every tail I have used. And then I'm taking my working yarn. I'm hanging a long piece of thread inside my machine because I'm going to use it to pick up my stitches and do whatever I want to do with them. I'm going to demonstrate to you how I like to close my tube. But first, you have to put your yarn between the last and the first needle. And then you are going to knit. So what have we done? We have started with scrap yarn, changed to another color and knit 1 round with scrap yarn. And now I'm just knitting my desired pattern. That's not interesting because that's for a special project. And now I'm finished. I'm cutting my yarn a long piece because I want to use it to close my tube. I'm taking it out of the feeder between the last and the first needle again. And then I'm going to put my scrap yarn into my feeder between the last and the first needle, and I'm going to knit 1 round. See, just the same place all the time between the last and the first needle. 1 round, so every needle just picks the yellow color in this case 1 time. I'm taking it out of the feeder and I'm taking another piece of scrap yarn. And I'm going to knit a couple of rounds with with the scrap yarn. And after knitting a couple of rounds, there are no rules. I'm just cutting my yarn and knitting until my work drops from the machine. So I'm continue cranking when my yarn runs out until my project comes loose. Now I'm going to demonstrate how I'm going to close the tube. I'm going to close the tubes with the use of my 5.5mm crochet hook. It's 5.5mm. You can search for your size in your country. Tubes have two ends, the casting on and the casting off end, and we are going to start with the casting off end. I'm turning the inside to the outside, and I'm going to show you the last knitted stitches with my working yarn that are captured between the scrap yarn. And when you put all those ends to the right, you will find your working yarn, and you will find those two yarn tails of that single strand row. So those three ends we need. You see that the working yarn is in the middle, and the yarn end closest to you goes into the first stitch we need to close the first pair. So I stick my needle through that last stitch and to the first stitch. Look, the working yarn is in the middle, and those two yarn tails are coming out of those two stitches. And when you look at the rest of the stitches, you will see that you can line them up easily into pairs. I'm putting my needles into all the pairs so you can see how it looks like. And this way you can see if you're doing it correct, because a tube with 22 stitches has 11 pair stitches. So I have to check if I have 11 pair. If not, I made a mistake with picking up those first pair, those first two stitches. Now I'm putting my needle into my last pair. Those are next to each other, but also in front of each other. And now I have 11 pairs. And I'm ready to close the pairs. So I'm sticking my crochet hook into that first two loops, and I'm taking my working yarn, and with the hook I'm going to pull the yarn through the two loops. And now I've started closing my tube. I'm going to pick up the next pair, pulling the yarn through all three loops on my hook. From now on I have 3 loops on my hook every time I'm going to close a pair. And I'm going to close all 11 pairs. And my last stitch, you always end with a pair. And then I'm pulling my yarn another time through that single loop, and the tube is closed. You have the scrap yarn tails on the right. I'm turning so that my working yarn is on the right, and now I'm going to pull out that single row with scrap yarn. that easy, and you can lift off the rest. And now this side of your tube, the end, is closed. And now we have to close the beginning of the tube, and that first stitch is a little bit more difficult to find. The hidden stitch is easy to find, but most people make the mistake by not searching for it, so they look at the loops and they think that this stitch is the first stitch and this is the opposite stitch, but it's not. You have to look at where your scrap yarn goes through. Find the first two loops where the yarn ends of the scrap yarn go through. And then you will find that the piece closest to you, that stitch, is a little bit hidden. This is the first stitch and the opposite stitch, and the working yarn is in between. And when you're not sure, you are going to count your 11 pairs again. Line them up. And my last pair, you always end with a pair. And then you continue closing as we did at the end of the tube, exactly the same way. When you are getting used to this, you don't need all those needles anymore. They are just for learning purpose. And sometimes I make also a mistake and I don't end up with a pair. And when I don't end up with a pair, I made a mistake. So I have to undo the closing by just pulling out those stitches and start over again with finding the real first pair. And then you close it the same way. Hello and welcome to this quick explanation how to join tubes knitted with your circular knitting machine to each other in all possible ways. You can join side to side. You can join end to end. You do that when you want to make an infinity tube, for example. And the last possibility is end to side. So I'm going to show you all three ways to join them. The first variation is end to end. I will demonstrate it to you and explain it with a little drawing. I take two ends of my tubes and I lay them in position. We are going to use V-stitches to join the tubes to each other. When you look at your work, you will find just under the edge V-stitches. They are all in one line and just next to each other. So you have to find your V-stitches one by one. They are all in line, so it's easy to find the top one. On the other end, you are going to find also the V-stitches from the right to the left. They are also in line, so it is easy to find them. We are going to join them one by one, so make sure that you understand how to find them, and then we are going to join them to each other like this. We are going to join one V-stitch to one V-stitch. And we repeat that to the end. I'm using a contrasting color so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to find myself the V-stitches. I'm starting with the one that's just at the edge or the corner. And I'm picking it up and I'm pulling my yarn through. Then I'm going to the other end and I find my first V-stitch. This one. And I'm going to pull my yarn through also, but not all the way. Make sure you keep a space between the two pieces. And then I'm going to pick up the next V-stitch at the first end. I'm pulling my yarn through, but not all the way. And then the second V-stitch on the other end. And this is basically what we keep repeating. Picking up V-stitches on one side and on the other side. Make sure you don't pull your yarn tight. And you are creating something like bars between the two pieces with your working yarn, and that's okay. Continue picking up those stitches, one by one. And when you're finished or your yarn is a little bit short, you just have to pull at your yarn. And then I have to continue the last few V-stitches. And the ends are joined. And now I'm going to pull at my yarn. And you will see that the ends will be joined very nice. You can pull through your yarn all the way. I'm pulling it a little bit back because I don't need that much of yarn. Make sure the tension is right. And this is how you join the ends to each other. On the inside you have a nice ridge. And on the outside it looks as if it is knitted to each other. So when joining ends, just join the V-stitches one by one. The next joining is the joining side to side. We are going to join the sides of our tubes to each other. So I'm picking up my tubes, for example, like this. So we are going to join them in the length. I'm turning my example so it's more clear to see what I'm going to do. We are going to join the sides of our tubes. And that's very simple. I'm taking my contrasting yarn. We're going to join them like this. So when you put them like this, you will see lines with V-stitches along the edge. Again, those V-stitches. And when you line them up pretty, it looks like they're just knitted in one line. You see those V-stitches, they're just one row. See it as a rail track. And you are going to follow that track. When you stick your needle in the V-stitches, you will find those vertical bars, just like in a train track. And we are going to use those bars. We start joining with picking up one bar and joining it with a bar on the other side, and then we pick up pairs. We are going to pick up 2 bars at a time, just like the V-stitches, but this looks a little bit different, and you end sometimes with 1 pair, but I will demonstrate. I'm going to stick my needle in the first V, and I'm going to find the bar. That's basically the back of the V-stitch. It's just one, little piece of yarn. Then I'm going to stick my needle in the first V-stitch on the other tube. And now I keep space in between, just as with the ends. And I'm going to stick my needle in where it came out. Those are big holes. And I'm going to pick up 2 bars at a time. Go in where you came out, pick up the next 2 bars. Make sure you get the vertical bars, the right ones, not the V-sticks, V-stitches. Go in where you came out, pick up the next pair and pair them up. Don't pull at your yarn that it goes tight, because then you cannot see clear what you are doing. Continue picking up 2 bars at a time. Don't skip bars. Don't go under twice. Just continue following the rail track, picking up the next pair of bars. Do that as far as possible, as long as your tubes are. This might look a little bit messy, but when you pull at your yarn, your tubes will be joined seamless. Your work will look like as if it is knitted in one piece on both sides. So when you join tubes side to side, it's usable on 2 sides. It's very simple. Just pair up the vertical bars under the V-stitches. So this is the second option, joining sides to sides. Then we have the last option, and that's joining the end to the side. I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm going to join the end to the side. Using also the contrasting color. We want to make it look like this. So for that I make a little drawing and explanation, and then I will show you how you have to join the end to the side of a tube. That is also very simple. You already know how to find V-stitches and how to find those bars, and we are going to combine them. So we are going to use the bars at the side, and we are going to use the V-stitches at the end. We are picking up 1 V-stitch at a time, and we are going one by one all the way. On the side we are going to pick up bars. First V-stitch 1 bar, second V-stitch 2 bars. First V-stitch 1 bar, second V-stitch 2 bars. So we are going to alternate the bars. I'm going to demonstrate picking up the first V-stitch, and I'm going to pick up 1 bar, because with every first stitch I pick up 1 bar. Keep space between the tubes. I'm picking up V-stitch number 2, and when I'm picking up V-stitch number 2, I'm picking up 2 bars. We are working in a series of 2 V-stitches, so I'm starting over. The third one is named number 1, picking up 1 bar. And the next one is number 2, and at V-stitch number 2 I have to pick up 2 bars. 1 V-stitch, 1 bar, second V-stitch, 2 bars. And continue all the way. You pick up 1 V-stitch at a time, and you alternate 1 bar and 2 bars. This V-stitch number 2, I have to pick up 2 bars. 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, and go as far as possible. And then you just simple pull at your yarn. You can pull at whatever yarn tail you like, and your work will close nice, without wrinkles, as if it's knitted together. A little ridge on the inside, and on the outside complete seamless. And this is how you join tubes with the end to the side. You join V-stitches 2 bars, alternating 1 and 2. We also know how to join the ends of the tubes to each other with the V-stitches. And now we know how to join the sides to each other by joining pairs of vertical bars, which gives a very nice seamless texture. Time to assemble. You have finished off all those tubes, close them, and now it's time to join the tubes for the length. You have 2 or 3 tubes and you are going to join them as demonstrated by joining bars to bars. So you are simply going to join. I'm using one of the 2 colors to do that, and I'm using it direct from the yarn without cutting, because then I know I always have enough. I start and go all the way to the end. I cut my yarn, but I leave the tails hanging because we finish off the few tails at the end of our project so that we are sure that the tension is okay everywhere. So join those 2 or 3 tubes to each other, and when you have one big panel, then we see each other again. And when you have joined your tubes, you have one big panel. In the next step, we are going to join the long tube for the sleeves, back and sleeves, to the sleeves on the upper side. So basically, you are going to join from the outside to the inside, the blocks to each other, and you are going to use just one of the 2 colors. That will work out fine. All the way up to here. You will have a opening here, and that's supposed to be. So you just are going to start joining this way from the outside to here. And when you have finished that, we see each other back for the next step. When you have joined the sleeves to the long sleeve part, you are going to fold over the small parts over the long parts, and then you are going to continue joining these sides, but only over 3 blocks. You stop here, you don't join the 4th one, you stop here and leave the tail hanging. You do the same on the other side. 1, 2, 3, start joining from the side until you come here. So these 2 blocks will be open with an empty part in the middle. So join them from there to here, and then I see you back. Now you have your bolero part, the upper part of your cardigan, and you have your big panel. Now you left open this part, and now we are going to join our panel from here all the way across the back to this part. So you just follow the line as if it's just a straight panel, and you are going to join it all the way. And then you have the basic cardigan, and you only have to join the collar or the border. So this is just as simple as the rest. Join it like this, and then when finished, you are ready for the last step. When you have joined the 2 parts, your basic cardigan is finished, and now we are going to finish off our ends. We start with the one in the pit, in the armpit. I have to look for the word since English is not my native language. I stick the needle to the inside when the yarn is not already on the inside of the armpit. And on the inside, I'm just going to knot it so that it's secured. And then I stick it in between 2 layers. Let it come out somewhere else. And cut it. So that you do for both armpits. And then you have to finish off the rest of the yarn tails on the end of the sleeves and here all the way around. That's very simple. You take the yarn end, make sure that the tension is correct so that it's seamless without being too tight like this. So you have to make sure that the tension is correct. And then you are going to basically join those 2 corners to each other. This is the red yarn, so I'm going through both ends. Just join them like this. I'm going to fold a loop around my needle, but you don't have to do that. You can knot whatever way you like. And then I'm going to pull through the needle through the knot. And then those 2 ends are secured. You can do it an extra time if you like. Oops. And then I'm going to hide the yarn tail between the 2 layers. Make sure you do it between the layers, otherwise you get something like this. That's not nice. So make sure you put the needle really between the 2 layers. Let it come out. Pull, and when it does not disappear all the way, you can cut it. And that you do all the way around. And on the sleeves, and when you have done that, it's time for the last step, joining the border. So continue, and I see you back when you have finished off all those yarn ends. Now we are ready to join the border or the collar to the cardigan. Make sure that you knitted the correct size border. When you have made a cardigan with just 2 panels for the length, so not this one, you have to knit a border that's 168 rows, and you have to finish it off completely. And when you have knitted 3 of these tubes for the length, you have to knit a border that's 260 rows length. Here's my border completely finished off. No more yarn tails. This is just a remaining scrap. So, and now we have to join. We have to join like this. We are going to join from bottom to the top. Then we go all the way along the corner. And again, around the corner and all the way down. And then it's joined. To join it, we are going to use 2 different techniques. We start with joining V-stitches. Here they are, V-stitches, to the vertical bars. So for that we are going to use the technique you saw in the previous chapter, number 3, joining V-stitches to vertical bars. When you have knitted the amount of rows as in the pattern, it will fit. You go all the way up until you reach the corner here, because then you fold over your tube and then you see that you have to connect the same way you connected the whole cardigan by joining bars to bars here. And when you're at the end here, at the next corner, you just go around the corner and continue joining V-stitches to vertical bars. And when you're done, you only have to tie off the two yarn tails from the beginning and the end. Do this with the yarn still on. Don't cut it, so you know always you have enough. Just cut it when it's completely finished. So start joining it from bottom to the top and to the bottom again, and then your cardigan is ready to wear. And then your cardigan is finished. You can fold the sleeves to make them shorter or longer when the child grows out of it, so you can use it longer. When you want to add buttons, that's very simple. Use big buttons and sew them on. And on the other side, to close the cardigan, you knit flat panels, wide 5 stitches, 30 rows. If you don't know how to do that, see the description of this video for a quick, smart video. And you sew them on, and then you can close your cardigan. Very simple and nice. So this is an extra add-on if you like to. This was the free video workshop for this pattern. See the description of this video to see all my circular knitting machine patterns. I have patterns for all different machines, and the list is growing. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to give me a thumb up and stay tuned to see the outro of this video where I demonstrate a few of my patterns. Thank you for watching. With love from Holland. Bye bye. Now you are ready for all kinds of projects with your circular knitting machine. I have more than 70 free workshops for all kinds of different projects. And all those free workshops are for different sizes machines. So check the description of this video for the link to all the workshops in just one list. And add it to your library, because I'm adding constantly new projects. So stay updated and join my channel. Please give me a thumb up and feel free to tip me. Check the description of this video for all needed information and more. Stay safe, with love from Holland. Bye bye.